I'm Angie from the Finger Lakes Museum, and I'm here to talk about tracking today because winter is the best time to go tracking. The subnivean layer is full of signs of the animals that are all around us. This is our animal family, and we can learn to identify who's around us by their prints, their patterns, which make up the whole track. And coming upon a track in the woods is coming upon a story. There's a story of where the animal was, and then there's the story of where he was headed or she was headed. And you can find tales of danger and tales of exploration and hunting and things they've escaped, foods they've eaten, places they've found shelter. And it's a real adventure this time of year. So come on, let's head on out and see what we can find.
So one of the first things to look for are patterns. What kind of pattern is this animal making before you even try to identify the print, which in deep snow can be pretty difficult. So the stride is the distance between one foot and the other foot, and the straddle is the distance between both legs. And you can see that this is probably a pretty large animal, long-legged. With this pattern, it is a diagonal walker, like you and I. That just means one foot in front of the other. That is how they move. There are other types of walkers we might find, other types of patterns, and those would be hoppers. And I'm going to come up ahead here, and for example, something that's hopping 2 by 2, which of course this animal, all animals adjust their paces, but a hopper actually has longer back legs, short front legs, and then longer back legs. And we'll find some hopper tracks out here, I'm sure. Another kind are waddlers, and waddlers are heavy-bodied animals that actually move one side of their body, and then they move the other side of their body, and they tend to make a little trough in the snow. And then we have our bounders. So there's 4 categories, and our bounders move like this. They go 2 by 2 by 2, almost like a slinky. Where their front paws land, the back feet come in after them, and they move like a slinky through the woods. And those tend to be short-legged, long-bodied animals, like the weasels and the mustelids. The hoppers tend to be squirrels, voles, chipmunks, and of those nature, and of course rabbits. And the waddlers, I'm getting kind of, are like raccoons and possums, bear, things with a heavy body and shorter legs. So learning to recognize the patterns, taking measurements of the stride between steps and the straddle, you can check those with all sorts of tracking guides, will help you identify what animal you've come upon. Sometimes the smallest tracks can be pretty exciting to find. This one comes up out of the snow under the tree. It crosses the trail here, and then it bounds. It makes a bounding type track and then goes back under an old part of the wood pile. And so this animal exposed itself but wanted to get back hidden, which was easy to do with the soft snow. Probably a vole. A little too big for a mouse, but certainly something the size of a vole. And I think there's 4 little prints in each of these little hopping tracks as they go along. Oh, and then this one is a complete hole. I can actually put the ruler right in here. You can see where the animal went and dive bombed right back under the snow. This is my morning prayerful spot. It's a very beautiful pond. It's a nice opening. Tends to attract a lot of wildlife, and I already see tracks crisscrossing the pond right now as the animals look for water, because winter is like a desert for wildlife because there's so little available water. Looking for patterns, the next thing to really try to hone in on is the actual print. And here is an animal up on its 2 toes, obviously a deer, and some other types of prints to look for are those in the canine family. This is the fox, and the fox walks in a very straight line, 4 toes. Almost all of the canines have an X in their palm right here that you can recognize, as well as looking for those front claw marks. 2 toes up on the dog, on the fox. Coyote tends to have a wider opposite 2 toes on the outside, tend to be a little bit larger than the center toes. In the cat family, you will find very round prints for a cat. They don't have the knuckles up. They're almost a perfect circle. In the case of the bobcat, the back foot is larger and wider. Again, you won't see the telltale claw signs. If you see claw marks in there, you know you're looking at something in the dog family.
Are these to scale? So if we took this and measured
Yes, they
it,
are.
so that's actually around 3
Yep.
inches.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. So
And the fox only a couple of inches.
yep.
Okay.
Yep, and the tracking guides will clue you in on that. The coyote can be a very large track, and of course the tracks, if they've been out in the snow for a while, tend to grow as they melt. They get larger. So other types of tracks you might come upon are our 5-fingered friends. This is the raccoon, and the raccoon is a waddler, but certainly you see them out in the winter here and there, and they have little hand-like prints, and a similar one would be the possum, and I love finding the possum tracks with their little five toes and 5-toed fingers. They look like little stars in the snow. They're really, really fun. The squirrels, rodents, voles, we saw some of their tunnels. They love this type of weather because they can travel under the snow and be safe from predators, and you can see their little tunnels emerge where they jump out and go back in. But they will have 5 toes on back and 4 toes up front as you look carefully at those prints. We have other animal signs to look for out in the woods besides tracks. You can also look for eat marks. Stems that have been shredded are done by deer because they don't have their top teeth, so they actually make a shredding type of cut. A nice sharp cut on a twig bud is made by a rabbit or a mouse. And other eat marks you might find include caches where squirrels and chipmunks have dug up acorns. The deer will also scrape up acorns. And you can look on the trees too for signs of birds looking for insects, woodpeckers making holes. So eat marks is another thing to look for out. David Thoreau came upon tracks one morning, and this is what he wrote. Here was one expression of divine mind this morning. The pond was his journal, and last night's snow made a tabula rosa for him. I know which way a mind wended this morning. What horizon it faced by the setting of these tracks, whether it moved slowly or rapidly by the greater of less intervals and distinctness, for the swiftest step leaves a lasting trace.